I just I would love to.
You ready, Jen? Mm-hmm. Well, thank you all for coming and waiting for me to get that the whole audio digital thing going again. So I appreciate that. So today we're going to be here about 40 minutes, so we can get you in and out of here, relatively quickly. If you have to leave in a half hour, I totally understand that. So, Dan asked me to speak. March is National Nutrition Month, and actually yesterday was National Registered Dietitian Day, so this kind of corresponds with that. So it's all about eating well at all ages. So I do get a lot of questions about people, asking me about things, what should I be eating, what shouldn't I be eating, and I thought, we would kind of cover it all today then too. So if we look at it, so there's a lot of age-related health concerns, and if we think about this, these are the things that we're going to try and fix within the medical profession, also with nutrition. So we've got diabetes, cancer, heart disease, respiratory diseases, arthritis is another one that affects us as we age, osteoporosis and falls, substance abuse, and Alzheimer's. And if we think about this, good nutrition can help with all of these things. And I think we forget about that being in the medical profession. We're all very acutely focused, okay, fix the problem right in front of us. And if we think about nutrition, it really can help prevent a lot of these things. So it can help prevent disease, and it can help reduce inflammation. And if we look at all those chronic diseases out there, they're all really like factors of inflammation. So they think about, cancer being affected by inflammation within the body. Heart disease is affected by inflammation in the body. Arthritis definitely is. Diabetes too. They think all of these things are inflammatory related. If somehow we can use nutrition to reduce that inflammation, we prevent a lot of these things from happening. It also improves our immune function, it improves our blood flow, it can improve our respiratory function, which I think is very fascinating. So we look at kids even with asthma, the kids with the lowest vitamin D levels have the worst symptoms of asthma. So a lot of times too, we've got to make sure, optimize those vitamin D levels, like even within the young ones, we know that does help with their asthma symptoms. Does it cure their asthma? Absolutely not. But we do know that the kids with the lowest levels do tend to have the worst asthma type symptoms. Also, we can increase our bone density and muscle strength with nutrition, and we can improve our cognition. So, again, what adults need more of? So if you look at a lot of these things, in all the medical literature out there, they're always telling you, don't eat this, don't eat that, don't do this, don't. And really then as adults, and even as people in general, what do? If someone tells us not to do something, well, I'm going to do it anyway. So we have to think about it differently. These are things that we need more of within our diet. These are things that we need to do. So we do need protein at each meal. They're animal or vegetable sources. We do need 8 or more servings of fruits and vegetables each day. We do need whole grains. We do maybe need some cultured dairy within our diet, or at least some culture, and we'll get into that. And we also need to have some beneficial fats in there as well. So, protein. Again, what is the benefit of protein at each meal? Why would you want to have protein at each meal? And for a while there too, protein got kind of like a bad rap, just to the point where, that's linked to heart disease, and we don't want too much protein in our diet, and plant-based diets are best. And plant-based diets are really good, but you still need to get your protein from vegetable sources then. So the benefit of protein at each meal is it really helps with satiety. So that is your fullness factor. That's going to keep you fuller for longer. We do know that when people have protein at each meal, their cravings in general go down. So a lot of people who tell me they just crave sugar all day long, they are so hungry, they never can get full. We a lot of times look at their protein intakes throughout the day. And I can tell you across the board, I find out that they're eating very little protein. They're never getting full. So that's something that you can do to have more protein at each meal. The other thing too is muscle maintenance. We know that people do better with a little bit of protein spread throughout the day. You can only absorb so much protein at once. And it kind of depends on the person, but they're saying really for most people it's somewhere between like 30 to 40 grams of protein is what you can absorb at a time. Some people less, some really buff individuals, that work out all the time can absorb a little more protein. But they're really saying only about 30 to 40 grams at a time. So if you think about that, that's not much protein. So really that would be about a 4-ounce steak. So like a little steak, that's all that you can absorb at a time. So even when you look at people who are eating 12-ounce steaks, I'm like, well, you can eat the 12 ounces, but you're really wasting about 8 of that because your body really can't absorb all of that anyway. And plus, a 12-ounce steak is really expensive. So if you think about that too, it's not getting utilized the way you want to. And that goes with absorption then too. You can only absorb so much protein at a time, and that's why you want to break it up throughout the day. And a lot of times I have these little old ladies, and if we think about them, they'll have tea and toast for breakfast. And then at lunchtime, they may have a light lunch of like some soup. And then at supper time, rolls around, they maybe have their cold meat sandwich or something like that. They're really not getting in those protein needs. And then the kids come home, they say, oh, mom's really failing. She's getting so weak. And now she's in the hospital with pneumonia and all these things. And she's just kind of whittled away at her protein stores throughout, kind of living on her own and trying to cook her meals. And that's a big part of it then too. And just keeping our people healthy and making sure they get enough protein is really helps with their immune function, and it's going to help with their muscle strength then too. And then how much do we need? So again, we kind of talked about that. Maybe, for most people, you can get by with about at least 20 grams of protein per meal. That would be about 60 grams per day. Most people, for a sedentary lifestyle, that would be completely fine. If you're working out, if you're an athlete, if you're a bigger person, you're going to need much more nutrition than that. So how much does that equate to? So 1 ounce of animal protein, so 1 ounce of turkey or 1 ounce of steak or an egg or something like that equals about 8 grams of protein. So you're kind of thinking in your head, okay, how would I get that in at breakfast? A cup of milk would have about 8 grams of protein. If we look at like a half a cup of dried beans or 2 tablespoons of peanut butter would have about 8 grams. So kind of look at your own breakfast and kind of determine about, am I getting that protein I need in to keep me full throughout the day then too. So again, not that difficult, but it's a different way of looking at it then. Fruits and vegetables. So again, benefits of fruits and vegetables, we know the variety of colors that you're going to have in your diet is what is going to be so terribly important. So again, when I went to school, they kind of broke it down. They were just starting to figure out the colors in fruits and vegetables. And we really didn't know that it had benefits just with the color itself. They really thought it was just the vitamins and minerals, it was the fiber. They were trying to break it out, but they couldn't figure it out. So if you look at a green pepper, there's at least 60 different chemical compounds within a green pepper. They haven't even isolated yet. So we know that those compounds in fruits and vegetables, the color itself is really where you get the benefit. They do suggest, World Health Organization, is that people get 8 or more servings of fruits and vegetables each day. And 8 or more seems absolutely overwhelming. And we know that in America, about 1% or less of the population gets 8 or more servings of fruits and vegetables per day. In Iowa, only about 11% of people get 5 or more servings of fruits and vegetables each day. So again, we're really, really pushing that, and we know it's so very important. If you see an integrative medical professional, they will tell you, and those people are really that you treat your health through food, they will tell you that you need to get 13 or more servings of fruits and vegetables each day. So the more fruits and vegetables you can get in, the better off you're going to be. So again, we have this challenge going on this month, trying to get you to at least have 5 or more per day. What that counts as 1 cup fresh, 1 piece of fruit, or about a half a cup canned, somewhere around in there. And again, it's going to be those multiple colors. We do know that red, blue, and purple pigmented foods are going to be the most beneficial for heart health. So if you heard, like eat a handful of blueberries and that helps prevent Alzheimer's. We do know that that helps improve blood flow to the brain. Those deeply pigmented red, blue, purple colors are really, really important for heart health and also for your cognitive function. We know kids that are exposed to that when mom's pregnant with them actually have a healthier developed brain then too. So we know mom's nutrition when she's pregnant can precipitate, like the child's brain health, and they don't know about intelligence yet, but they think that might be part of it too. Your orange and your yellow ones definitely have an immune protection with that. They're going to be good sources of beta carotene is one of those with the carotenoids that do help with your immune function. We know the white ones with like garlic and onions and even white potatoes. They do have some blood pressure lowering benefits with that. So again, the allicin, the ALLICIN, is going to be beneficial for those type of things. And so in your leafy green vegetables, they know that that's actually an important detoxifier for our system, is a simple way to put it. And so they looked at leafy green vegetables, and they know that it was a big predictor of not getting heart disease. The people that ate the most leafy greens tended to not get heart disease. And they're like, oh, well, it must be the folic acid in there. It must be the folate, foliage, and they kind of think it. So we're going to supplement these people with folate, and they won't get heart disease. So they did these big long-term studies, and what do you think the outcome was? Did it help? No, really didn't do anything. And they said, oh, it must be the vitamin K in there. That must help, tell the calcium where to go. It must, really help with heart disease then too, helps with the elasticity of the blood vessels. It helps with clotting and make sure everything works okay. Do you think the vitamin K supplement really helped prevent heart disease? No. It was the food itself. So they don't know exactly what it is in leafy greens, but they do know everybody should be eating at least a plateful of them every day. We know that it has definite health benefits in there. We don't know what it is. So again, that's what's so interesting about it. It is the food itself, and you can't really find that in supplement form. So the next one on here, cultured dairy. So again, there are multiple benefits of probiotics out there that are being discovered. And they don't even know all the certain benefits. They look at the gut health of like obese individuals now, and they also look at the gut health of people that really struggle to maintain their weight, but very thin people. And they do know that their gut health is much more different. With all the fecal transplants that they've had out there to help with C. diff, if any of you have seen that, they do know that some people who went from a very thin person, if they got a fecal transplant from someone who really struggled with their weight, they tended to put on a lot of weight that they never had trouble with it in their life then either, just with that fecal transplant. So by transplanting different type of microbes into the gut actually changed how they utilized their food and how they gained weight and did those type of things. They're just figuring that out. We know the people that have the best cholesterol levels tend to have more of this bacteria called Lactobacillus reuteri. So there's a certain strain, that on there, and so they started, trying some trials to see, okay, well maybe we supplement these people that have high cholesterol levels with this certain probiotic to see if it lowers their cholesterol levels. Some studies are going on, they don't know for sure. There are also some studies going on there called GAPS, gut and psychology syndrome is what they're looking at. They know that the kids that have kind of messed up guts, they kind of have some issues with some intestinal issues, tend to have psychological issues as well. So it's really, really interesting. This is where all these studies are coming from. So anytime you can get more probiotics in your diet, and with cultured food, mostly from your cultured dairy, that's going to be a good thing. Dairy is also a good carrier of your calcium and some other vitamins and minerals as well. If you don't tolerate dairy, there's other things out there like kimchi, kombucha. There's some soy milk derivative yogurts that you can get out there as well. But you do need to have more of those probiotics within your system. The benefit of taking probiotic supplements, that's still up in the air, and many of the strains and the products out there, you're kind of throwing your money away. So you have to be very careful about buying a certain probiotic supplement then too. So I've got kefir, I've got some yogurt listed there, and also certain kinds of cottage cheese actually have some good probiotics in them as well. So those are some things you can look for at the store then too. Again, like kombucha and kimchi would be other non-dairy type of probiotic foods.
Yeah. What about your regular milk that people drink?
Regular milk, if it's not pasteurized, if it comes straight from the cow and it's raw, then it has a ton of probiotics in it. Well, raw milk has its own issues. It has E. coli sometimes and Campylobacter and all these bad things. That's why we pasteurize it, because it's got pathogens in it sometimes. So again, regular milk, not so much. Used to be able to get sweet acidophilus milk, and that actually had some probiotics in it. But the current ones that I've seen in the store do not have that in there. And if you knew a farmer who did his own independent party testing of his raw milk to assure that it didn't have all these pathogens in it, that might be okay, but that doesn't exist around here. So that's a tough one. And that's the real debate on pasteurization of milk too. They're saying, well, it doesn't have all these beneficial probiotics in it anymore, because pasteurization kills the good and the bad bugs.
What about all those almond, you see all the almond, cashew, all those?
Only if it says that it's specifically formulated with more probiotics, it does not have it in it. So I would imagine with the big trend that's coming out with that more of those alternative milks would start putting it in there. But I have seen some juices with it in there, but again, you're getting there's a lot of added sugars and some of those things in it too, so you have to watch out. Okay. So whole grains. So again, benefits of whole grains. So your whole grains, you look at the little picture down here, is the whole thing, right? Hence the name. So you get the outer husk, you get the little middle protein part, the germ, and you get the fluffy middle part too, and you get the endosperm, what that is. When you eat refined white flour, you're missing two of those parts. All you get is the fluffy middle center. So if you think about that, all the phytonutrients, the protein and things like that, are going to be with the whole grain. So the fiber is going to be in the outer husk, and the germ is where the protein is then too. So you're missing 2/3 of the grain when you eat white flour. So they do add some nutrients back in there. Do you think they add all back in? No, they can't add them all back in. It's an enriched white flour. It's not quite the same. Your benefits with your whole grain is going to be the fiber, so it kind of acts like a brush for your intestinal system, right? We're kind of brushing everything as it moves its way through. And also you're going to get a little more protein with your whole grains. You're going to get some fullness factor by having those. Some examples would be like your brown rice, oatmeal, whole wheat, millet, quinoa, corn, like your corn tortillas. They are 100% whole grain. Buckwheat, amaranth, teps, sorghum. The thing to remember with your whole grains too, these are your energy foods. So grains in general, if you are not very active, you don't need many grains. And we kind of have that in reverse. These tends to be the foods that we start with, and these are kind of, should be the foods we'd almost end with. You know, we should have our fruits and vegetables first, and maybe a little bit of protein, and these are the foods that we should end with to kind of help balance out the energy at our meal then too. So maybe think about them a little bit differently. If you are very active, you need a lot of grains in your diet, right? You need those carbs. You need to go out there so you can run your 5K. You need those grains in there. But again, when you're eating grains, make sure they're going to be whole grains, but kind of, wash them just for your energy balance then too. And then healthy fats. Healthy fats are a tough one because there are a lot of fats out there that aren't so healthy for you then either. So fats are going to help you because they really help keep you fuller for longer. You do need a little bit of fat in your diet. Certain fats, your omega-3s and also your omega-9s do have anti-inflammatory benefits. So again, if you're going with a very low-fat diet, you can have some trouble in those regards. It can bump up inflammation. Fats too also balance hormones. So we do need a little bit of fat in our diet to make all our good hormones, to make our testosterone and our estrogen and our progesterone and our thyroid hormones and our insulin hormones. We do need a little bit of fat in our diet to help with those things. It does help improve endothelial tissue. So omega-3 fatty acids and omega-9s are very interesting. They help with the lining of everything within your body, right? That's endothelial tissue. So the lining of your brain, the lining of your blood vessels, the lining of your intestines. We know that omega-3 and omega-9 fatty acids are very, very beneficial for the lining of those. And what's interesting, when people with heart disease, there's certain genetic subsets with heart disease that have very scaly blood vessels, okay? On the inside, it's very rough and scaly if you think about that. So if you have rough and scaly vessels, do you think that plaque sticks to it pretty easily? Yeah, very easily. And so those people, if they can possibly increase the omega-3 fatty acids in their diet at a young age, it does help smooth the lining of all those tissues in there so the plaque doesn't build up as easily. So again, some people, some genetic subsets need more, and that's why they're just starting to figure those things out. I would anticipate in 20 years, you could have that genetic test and, oh, yep, you're the omega-3 need more group. We've got to get you started on some healthier foods earlier on. Does it hurt you to start on those healthier foods earlier on, even if you don't have that? No. So again, everybody should probably be eating more of those. Also, it does help support brain neurons for cognition and mood. Again, it's important for those neurotransmitters within your brain. We know omega-3 fatty acids tend to have some type of preventative effect for Alzheimer's then too. And it improves the absorption of your fat-soluble nutrients, A, D, E, and K. It's going to help you absorb them. If you're taking a vitamin D supplement and you're taking it on an empty stomach, or you take it with an apple, do you think you'll absorb your vitamin D supplement? No, it's a fat-soluble vitamin. So again, it does help with the absorption of those fat-soluble nutrients. So food sources, the big one on there. So omega-9 fatty acids, those are your monounsaturated fatty acids. Those are going to be found in things like avocado. They're going to be found in things like olive oil. And then even some of your high oleic oils that they have out there, like canola and sunflower oil. Those will have quite a few omega-9s in there too. With those oils, you have to make sure that they're not heavily refined. They take them and they cold press them, but then they refine them so you can cook at a very high heat. And then you kind of lose some of the benefit with that too. So if you can eat it more in its natural form, that's going to be the benefit of it too. Olive oil, you can't really cook with olive oil. It's really supposed to be used as a condiment, especially if you use it like the Mediterraneans use it. They get their plate of spaghetti and they drizzle the olive oil over it, or they drizzle it over their bread. They eat it like a condiment. They don't necessarily cook with it per se. So again, olive oil is another one too. Do you think you can take your omega-369 supplement and get the benefit that you would of healthy fats? Absolutely not. It's the food itself is where the benefit's going to be. Omega-3 fatty acids are going to be found in things like salmon, herring, mackerel, deep lake trout is another good source. And then the plant sources would be things like walnuts, flax seeds, chia seeds. All of those would be good sources of omega-3 fatty acids within your diet then too. So again, a lot of those little pictures there as well. So what adults need less of? So we need less refined grains and sugars. We need less processed food. We need less processed meats. And we need less alcohol. So alcohol is an interesting one because they used to say, alcohol in moderation, and everybody's had a different term of what alcohol in moderation was. So refined grains and sugars. Why these are so bad is they increase inflammation in the body. So if you're trying to eat a lot of foods that are anti-inflammatory, you don't want to dump a lot of inflammation within the body then either, right? That would be a bad thing. That's going to predispose you to an increased risk of diseases. So again, increased disease risk was part of that. Also, these foods, they're high in calories, they are low in nutrients. And if we look at a lot of these foods, there are a lot of foods that, we tend to feed children, right? Oh, they'll like it, they give it to them. The problem with kids is actually their calorie needs are pretty low, but their nutrient needs are pretty high. So again, we'll give it to kids, they can eat it. They're actually the wrong subset of who should be eating it then too. They really don't have room in their diet for those type of things. And adults, we know we don't have room in our diet for those type of things then either. So we really need to look at how we're feeding our children, establishing those food trends for the rest of their lifetime and how we're feeding ourselves then too. But again, all these foods, quite a bit of, added sodium in there without a lot of nutrition, and quite a bit of added sugar too, without a lot of nutrition. When you add sugar into a product, you increase the calories, but you don't really increase the nutritional quality of it. That's what's kind of sad to me. Sugar, like if you put them on, like cranberries for example, a little bit of sugar on cranberries makes them craisins, right? People eat them. If you didn't put sugar on craisins, do you think anyone would eat them? No, they're terribly, terribly tart. So adding a little bit of sugar in that instance actually increases consumption. So adding, frosting to a donut, really not doing any good there. You're not really increasing, we don't want people to eat too many donuts and those in either. So think about your sugar wisely then. If it helps you increase consumption of something that maybe you wouldn't eat otherwise, then, maybe look at that a little bit differently too. So Gatorade is listed down there too. Not a big fan of the Gatorade. Processed meats. So we know processed meats do really increase our risk for diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. These type of foods are going to be, again, high in calories and low in nutrients. With your processed meats, and this would actually include a lot of your deli meats. So deli turkey would be in there too. We always think, well, deli turkey is low in fat, it'd be better for you. Still not so great for us then either. Any of our processed meats are not going to be such a good choice. And they don't know what it is about processed meats. They're like, oh, it must be the preservative. So they give rats a whole bunch of preservatives and think if it does anything to them, it doesn't seem to do anything to them. Maybe it's the nitrates, maybe it's the fats. They can't exactly figure out what it is about processed meats that tend to increase the disease risk. So again, it's the food itself, not the individual components that make it a risk. So anytime you can reduce your intake of those processed meats, that's going to be a good thing then too. You're looking for like whole muscle type of cooked food. If you bought like a lean hamburger and you cooked it yourself, that is not a processed meat. If you bought a turkey and you roasted it and you sliced it off for your sandwich, that is not going to be a processed meat. So anytime that, anything that has limited processing is going to be an okay thing, it's the process, those meats themselves that the issue is. And bacon, yes, I love bacon, but it is in there with the processed meats then as well. So that is the issue. It's not necessarily the fat, it's the food as the whole. So. Alcohol. So we do know that there are health risks associated with alcohol. We do know that too much alcohol does raise blood cholesterol levels, it does raise blood pressure levels, and there are some new studies too that any amount of alcoholic consumption may increase your risk of breast cancer, which I'm like, oh, that's a bummer of a deal, this is a bad thing. So they are associating quite a few health risks associated with alcohol. So no more than 1 drink a day for women and no more than 2 drinks a day for men. Reason being, it's not because women are necessarily smaller than men. Women actually possess less of the enzyme, alcohol dehydrogenase, to break down alcohol. That's what the issue is. So again, if you don't make enough of that enzyme, you're going to see the effects of alcohol, the bad health effects of alcohol, a lot sooner within your life then too. And if you even think about, maybe some of the patients that you take care of, women who struggle with alcohol misuse, we tend to see them with liver issues about 10 years before we see the guys with the same liver issues, right? They possess less of that enzyme. And actually people with a Japanese heritage have less of that alcohol dehydrogenase too. Just genetically, they don't break down alcohol as well. So they're going to have more trouble with the health effects of that too. So what 1 drink is, it is 1.5 ounces of hard liquor, or it's 5 ounces of wine, or it's 12 ounces of beer. So again, you cannot save them up all for Saturday, right? It's that one and done type of thing if you're a woman, or it's 2 and done if you're a man. So that's what we have. So you're asking yourself, well, you ruined everything for me. Now what shall I eat? So a sample breakfast. Keep it simple. So oatmeal, fruit, walnuts, and milk. What have we got here? So if you look on there, so oatmeal would be a whole grain. Fruit, we're trying to increase our intakes of these things. Walnuts would have some good protein in there and some omega-3 fatty acids, the ALA kind. And that milk in there, maybe we would even get, like some sweet acidophilus milk in there for some probiotics. Good fiber in there, that's going to fill you up and keep you full for longer. More breakfast ideas, Greek yogurt, some berries, some flaxseed, and granola. Again, some probiotics, some fruit in there, some good high fiber with your flaxseed and good omega-3 fatty acids, and some good whole grains with the granola on there. Maybe an egg, whole grain toast with peanut butter, banana, and a little bit of kefir on there too. Again, so an egg, nice protein. If you bought the omega-3 eggs, you'd get some really good a good fatty acid profile with that. Whole grain toast with peanut butter, that always sounds good. Your fruit, and then also a few of your probiotics. Avocado, cheese, a little bit of olive oil on whole grain toast. Again, nice breakfast idea on there then too. Got some good healthy fats in there to keep you going. Some cheese in there and some whole grains to kind of help extend your fullness factor. And then a green smoothie too. So I have a recipe for a green smoothie over there if you want to take that with you when you're leaving then too. So that would have your vegetables and your fruit and a protein and maybe even a little bit of omega-3 fatty acids with some flaxseed you could add in there. A sample lunch, again, you can make this in the salad bar today. So some romaine lettuce, and then with some chicken, some fresh fruit, and then a nice balsamic vinaigrette dressing. So again, a nice balance with that. Other choices, maybe some 2 hard shell tacos with chicken, and have a side of beans to go with that, and an apple, right? That'd be a nice filling. Hard shell tacos would have whole grains in it. That's why that one's going to be beneficial. Vegetable soup, tuna salad. Tuna's going to have some nice omega-3 fatty acids in there for you with your whole wheat bread and a fresh fruit cup. And then another one, maybe you brought this from home, maybe some shrimp and vegetables, brown rice, and then an orange for dessert to go with that. I do have like a very easy shrimp recipe over there if you want to take that with you as you go as well. Again, these are simple things to do. They don't take long for prep because I don't have much patience either. A sample snack. Maybe some cottage cheese with fruits. You've got some good protein in there. We're trying to increase our fruit and vegetable consumption. That's going to help hold you over. Plus, you get some good probiotics in there. Other examples, these would have protein in them. They're going to keep you fuller for longer. So again, hummus with some whole grain pitas and vegetables, an apple and maybe some cheese, and then celery with peanut butter or almond butter, something like that would be a good choice for you as well. Going to keep you fuller for longer, increasing your fruits and vegetable consumptions. That's the point of it. And then a sample supper. So a vegetarian supper would be like some whole grain spaghetti, some nice, that's going to be a higher protein source, a marinara sauce, some artichokes and mushrooms on there to kind of get your vegetables in there. Maybe a little bit of Parmesan cheese if you like for some protein, some lettuce salad, nice fat with your olive oil dressing, a little vinegar on there, maybe a pear for dessert in there. So lots of things you can do with that. Again, you wouldn't have to have protein, animal protein with that meal. Vegetarian sources would be just fine. Some more supper ideas. I want someone to make this for me for supper tonight. So sirloin steak, maybe like a wild rice and bulgur blend, nice whole grains in there. Some garlic roasted Brussels sprouts. There's a recipe for that over there if you'd like to take that home. Some vanilla yogurt with strawberry slices. Or then you could always have salmon and some asparagus, some whole grain bread with olive oil for dipping, And then maybe some peaches with brie cheese. Doesn't that sound good? I want someone to make that for me. And maybe, you know, make it nice, optional white wine to go with that supper. So 1 glass if you're a woman, you can have 2 glasses if you're a guy. So again, does it have to be so exotic? No, but just know that you could eat very, very well just by following those type of food plans then too. So conclusion, we are a country of overfed, but a lot of times undernourished people. Something to think about. Get rid of the junk food in your diet and your families. And really the point of the whole thing was to eat real food all day, every day. It wasn't to eat a lot of that processed stuff. Any questions or anything like that? Yes?
What's a good brand of olive oil?
So I have, Bertolli's is one that I see around pretty good. They do have a cold pressed oil and it's not refined. So when you're looking for an olive oil, you want the unrefined one and you want it to say like first cold pressing. So again, and then don't cook with it because it can't handle the heat. So it's more than, like I said, condiment type of food then too. And I actually have a bottle of it over there if you wanted to look at it then too. So yeah. So I do have like a drawing today for everybody that showed up.